his second week on the stand in the City Harvest trial, former fund manager for the church, Chew Eng Han, found himself facing off with the prosecution on the issue of sham bonds. Over the last 5 days of cross-examination, 54-year-old Chew, a former banker, defended the bonds he had structured for the church between 2007 and 2008. The prosecution interrogated Chew about the extent of what auditor Fung Dao Cheng knew with regard to the nature and relationship between Xuezhi and Extron. The prosecution alleged that Chew and the other co-accused sought to deceive Fung by not informing him that Extron was a special-purpose vehicle set up to manage Sun Ho's career. Chew disagreed. Chew pointed out that Fung had been involved since before the Roland Poon incident and understood that the church needed to maintain a distance from the crossover project. Later, the prosecution tried to suggest that Fung had not been given critical information and thus was in no position to advise the defendants. The prosecution's definition of this critical information was the alleged control that Kong Hee and Tan Yiping wielded over Extron, which Chew had told the court he had only deduced after seeing evidence during the trial. The prosecution put it to Chew that he was involved in intentionally hiding Xuezhi's control over Extron from the auditors in order to prevent them from asking for consolidation of the two companies and to avoid related party disclosures. The purpose of doing so, the prosecution added, was so that the accused could avoid the bond investments being revealed as a sham. Chew disagreed. He said that Fung understood that Xuezhi wanted Extron to achieve the goals of the church yet maintain a distance from it. Senior counsel N. Srinivasan for Tan Yiping also pointed out in one email used by the prosecution that auditor Tiang Yi knew that the bond proceeds were going to fund the production of music albums. The only time Chew admitted to keeping anything from an auditor was when he told the court he had instructed co-defendant Sharon Tan not to tell auditor Sim Guan Sing what the Special Opportunities Fund had been invested in. When asked why, Chew replied that he did not want to answer to the auditor, only the board. Chew also tried to downplay his role several times throughout the week. The prosecution showed email evidence that Chew had in fact suggested the bonds as a way to fund the crossover project using the church's building fund. Chew insisted the idea did not come from him. Midway through the week, Chew told the court his definition of his role as fund manager. He said that his actions were divided into two: investment advisory and investment management. For Extron, he told the court he only took on the advisory role. He admitted that this was not communicated at any time to the Xuezhi board, investment committee, lawyers or auditors. He tried to insist that the investment into Extron was made by the church and not by AMAC. The prosecution pointed out that in all the documents for the Extron and Ferna bonds, it was AMAC that entered into agreements with the parties and Xuezhi was not named at all. When asked if that meant he was not responsible for the outcome of the Extron and Ferna bonds, Chew said no, adding that he still conducted due diligence to satisfy himself on the soundness of the investments. At the start of the week, senior counsel Srinivasan took Chew through his charges. Chew echoed what his co-defendants had said, that the bonds were legitimate investments and that there had been no intention by any of the accused to cause wrongful loss to the church through the transactions that had been entered into. Throughout this week, Chew consistently defended the transactions he had structured for the church, despite the prosecution calling him disingenuous many times. The prosecution will continue its cross-examination of Chew Eng Han on 16 March. This is Wayne Chung for City News, Singapore.